Welcome to the PAMU podcast, your go-to neoliberal getaway.
Welcome to the PAMU podcast.
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 Now, sit back and imagine you are in your designated cubicle, wasting your physical energy.
For the glory of the corporation.
For the glory of the corporation.
For the glory of the corporation.
For the glory of the corporation. Take a 5-minute lunch break and enjoy.
Welcome to the PAMU podcast.
Hello guys, welcome to episode 10 of the PAMU podcast, your go-to neoliberal getaway. Today it's me, Nestor, aka Analytic Birb, with Azim, aka Nomadic Sage.
Hey, what's up? It's cracking.
And we have with us Nikki and Comrade T, the two admins behind Revolutionary Memes Extreme, one of the biggest meme pages in one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in sort of like the philosophy, politics sort of sphere. So before anything, you guys want to like introduce yourselves a little?
Sure, go ahead and take it away, Nikki.
Hey y'all, I'm Nikki. I'm the creator and co-admin of Revolutionary Memes Extreme. I'm sort of a weird hybrid. I was a post-left anarchist when I made the page and started gravitating towards Marxism and just sort of do my own thing, kind of synthesizing the two, I guess.
It's cool.
Well, hi, I'm Taylor. I joined on after about 1,000 likes, and I've just been helping create content.
Well, I mean, like after 1,000 likes, if you guys are at like 300,000 right now, right? So like, 1,000 likes pretty early on.
Yeah. I'm sure if we fish back, you could see my terrible first memes. But yeah, I joined on, and I've just been trying to use the platform for education and uplifting other people's voices.
All right, so actually, so the basic kind of like theme that I wanted to like go through on this episode was like sort of like how does like online praxis and like in real life praxis like sort of like overlap, feed off of each other? Like how do you do, like what do you do so that like one is complementary to the other? You know what I'm saying? So why don't you just like tell us a little bit about your experience doing that? Because like, I mean, obviously, I mean, you run a huge online platform, but also like as far as I know, you both also do like kind of activism in real life, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
With me, it was I was into the real life activism before I made the page. I had some downtime where I couldn't be as involved. I had moved to another state and decided to make the page to get some propaganda out there. And you can't just stop at memes. Memes are great. People love them. They enjoy them. But you got to have some kind of follow-up so that it's just, if you're really wanting to pull people in and radicalize people. T had, if you want to talk a little bit about your guide.
You're talking about Bookchin, right?
The guide on the page.
Oh, the guide? I thought you said God. I thought we were already memeing. No, yeah. I've tried to mostly educate people because what I've noticed is that meme pages can do some good, like materially. I think it's leftist memes for Vanguard teams has like solidarity funds and people do stuff like that. But as far as like organizing, I've noticed a lot of people generally don't get too excited when they see something online. They don't tend to actually like, oh, I should sign up for something. Oh, I should go out and say something about this. Generally, I've found the most effective way to make people actually do something is to educate them on the issue first. And generally, they'll go out and find something to do in their own community or find another outlet for it.
Yeah, so rather than like actually call to action, so to speak, just like sort of give them the like information or tools or whatever so that like they'll want to go and do stuff like on their own rather than.
We used to try in the early days, around the time we hit 100,000, things got crazy. We used to try to do the calls to actions. We used to share events, you know, GoFundMes, try to get information out there about, you know, various community projects in various places. And it was a mess. A lot of people hate us, and they were making more trouble for the events that we were sharing and trying to get people interested in. And we discussed it at the time, and it was doing more harm than good operating that way. So we kind of changed our approach. We still get a lot of messages and stuff in the inbox with people asking how they can get involved, and I'll point them in the right direction if I can.
Yeah.
But as far as like the real public, you know, event sharing calls to action, it may have done some good when we were smaller, but with a page that size, we have no control over who it's reaching. It just wasn't working out.
Yeah. And actually, yeah, I mean, like we'll get to the gods eventually, so like you'll get to talk about Buchkin and Stirner, so like don't worry about that, guys. But so actually, like, what do you like? Because I myself actually like always been curious, like, how did it like even happen? Like, how do you blow up? Because like, you know, at this point, like, there's so many pages on Facebook and whatnot that like, I think it's just basically a saturated market. Like, it's very, very difficult to get like that big. But like, you guys have been around for a while, right?
We'll be about going on 4 years in February.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
Crazy.
It's crazy to think about for me. It feels like I started this last year.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're going like probably we have like 2 years and a half.
I think we're at 2, yeah. We're around 2.
We did blow up big, partially because of like group involvement. Nikki would literally just invite every single person who liked a photo to like the page. It does take time. It does take like actually sharing in different places, finding interest groups in other places. Generally, then people are there just gonna find your page naturally. But
yeah,
it can happen. It required a bit of luck. I think our name definitely has more than just a leftist appeal, but it kind of has a catch-all appeal that might also interest like even Bernie Sanders people who are like, oh, the political revolution, or libertarians who are like, oh, we like 1776, blah, blah, blah. And
yeah.
that kind of helped a lot because if you look at other socialist pages, they generally do attract a lot of left-leaning people. And ours definitely attracts left-leaning peoples, but will also tend to get a lot of people that aren't necessarily that revolutionary in terms of leftism.
Yeah.
And we did that intentionally. I put a lot of work in the beginning days. Like T said, I joined big groups. I didn't particularly even care if they were left-leaning. I shared the post. For example, one of my strategies has always been, for example, the White Claw memes. It may not be revolutionary, it may not be anti-capitalist, but they get a lot of shares to circles that a lot of our, core content doesn't get shared to. And then people, maybe like us and stick around.
Yeah, yeah.
I've always had a pretty good mix of kind of the more mainstream normie stuff in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys use the normie content is the hook, and then you guys sink them in and radicalize them. That's what it is.
Yeah, and we also don't ban people. A lot of leftist pages, they don't really allow right wingers, people outside of their circle on the page. Ours is full of, you name it, they're on there. We have regulars who
Nazis though.
Yeah. We have regulars who are hyper-religious people, libertarians, just all kinds. We ban people for using hate speech or spamming or, any of the real bad things, but we don't ban people just because they come on the page with a bad opinion. And our inbox is full of people who have been like, hey, I was this and now I'm with you guys.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Like, I don't know, like people, I assume there's, probably a bunch that were like, just like Bernie Sanders supporters, and now they're like, actual communists or whatever. But have you ever had like, I don't know, like just like right libertarians or like centrists or
literally all the time, yeah. I just had one the day before yesterday. The last message from him was a year ago, and he was salty at us at the time. And he got saying, I'm back. I am unemployed and an activist now, and I'm with you guys. And it's not just Bernie people. It's right wingers. It's kind of everybody.
Yeah, actually, like a bit off topic here, but like, did both of you were you always like leftists, or maybe you were like kind of center leftists and then like you got radicalized, or you were always that way, or
I actually started out in some like our environmental activism and things like that.
Yeah.
I hung out with a lot of libertarians. I don't know that I personally was ever libertarian, but I hung out with a lot of libertarians and like, eco activists and things like that. And then I, started reading more theory, and then, started to lean. Principally, I think, I was probably always pretty left, and just kind of hadn't developed on it.
Yeah, yeah.
I was conservative growing up, and I just started reading books in high school, became a socialist, anarchist, then communalist.
Okay, so but like for you, I guess it was like pretty like from apolitical, like directly to like leftist, I guess.
Well, yeah, kind of. I was actually like a big supporter of like the presidential candidates that my father would support, kind of right wing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Basic principles during high school. I just kind of read out of it, if that makes sense. I mean, the book can cure right wingism, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
But yeah, any time I've spent really being, interested in politics, I kind of went straight to anarchism, more or less.
Oh, okay, yeah. More on the side of like the online practice. Like, this is obviously not like a very specific question, but like as a leftist meme page that has 300,000 followers, like what's your take on whether or not the left can meme and why? Like
the left certainly can meme. Anybody can meme. I think there is something to be said that the left can't meme. Though I feel like sometimes we struggle to get our memes out into the general consciousness while the right wing does.
Yeah.
It isn't a matter of quality or anything like that. It's just kind of networking, and leftists kind of segregate themselves, and a lot of the memes take a while to kind of disseminate throughout the different groups. Other than that, yeah, we can totally meme.
Right.
It's yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was
Well,
gonna.
I think
about
it's just a lot of leftist meme culture is sort of like, you know, digestible and understandable to a niche group of people, where I guess the right wing ones are, you know, broader and, you know, not as exclusive. But yeah, we can meme. We're memeing. Got 310,000 followers.
Wait, so you were gonna say something, right, Asim?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that the main problem with the left not being able to meme is that the right wing typically they have like a common like ethos that they go by, and they don't tear each other or criticize each other's like memetic ability, if that makes sense. But with the left, you know, if left wingers try to meme, it's going to be left wingers will be the first ones to attack the memes, and they'll try to shut you down for them. So it's like this really unfortunate like conundrum that the left like kind of memetic propagandists have to go through with, is that they're harshly judged by their own people, and so they can't really actually get their memes out there because they're already shut down before they even get out there. That's like one theory that I have. I don't know if you guys feel that as well.
I've felt that in certain. I think I've been lucky. The political like Facebook groups I wouldn't say grew up in, but developed my meme skills. I'd say they were a lot less judgy or more just openly confrontational, to where I wouldn't care if the meme was being judged too harshly for some certain political point. I mean, at some point, you just can't cater to every single political ideology unless you use like super obscure terms that nobody's really familiar with.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, about that, like, you know, like the sort of more theory, like abstract part, because like I have the feeling that like originally you guys were just like straight up like political meme stuff. Like, I mean, I guess some people would even say like propaganda. But then like from a while back, you've started doing like more, I guess, philosophy stuff. Like, how do you start getting more like into theory, you know? Because, and also I've noticed that like whenever you share like a more, you know, theory thing on the page, and I'm like, wow, that's such a good meme, and like I'll share it to like to the PAMU page, but like I'll notice that it will have like way less reactions and comments than like the normal political stuff. But like,
yeah, if you want me to go, I mean, the reason I started doing more philosophy memes and kind of that theory-based stuff was frankly because I joined college. I joined some reading groups and philosophy classes, and it just kind of interested me more in those topics. I read more on philosophy and stuff like that. But also, yes, if it's niche, it's just not going to get likes or reactions because nobody's going to be enthused enough to kind of interact with a post unless they're curious by what it means. The trick is I've seen, if you can just kind of put a buzzword in there like neoliberal, you can generally kind of bamboozle people into caring about philosophy memes somewhat.
I was always, I was interested in philosophy before I was politics. And I guess just as me and T have kind of, you know, grown and developed together, this is just where we're at now. You know, we both more theory under our belt. Philosophy was always a passion of mine anyway, and I've just kind of come in full circle, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, for example, we do sometimes get like people on the inbox saying like, oh, like, can you recommend some like readings about like, I don't know, whatever, like how do I start with like analytic philosophy or like Nietzsche, or like, do you ever get you think like the theory stuff that you've started doing like has gotten people interested more in theory, or like or are people still like way just more engaged in the like political stuff, and like the theory just like goes to the people who are already interested?
I think it's more the latter. I mean, it seems like there's just a niche group that continually interacts with the theory stuff.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I have a few things on the guide that would lead somebody maybe to check out some philosophy stuff, but I've mostly kept it to political or politically left-leaning sociologists.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the most you're going to get out of my guide is Adorno and Foucault. So
Nice.
Yeah.
But I would
Yes.
encourage people. It's just I also kind of sympathize with people. I mean, if I were not actively engaged in this, I'm not sure I'd want to study up on Kierkegaard while I'm
Yeah.
Right.
live job, just as I am right now.
Yeah. So basically, like, as long as you get people like to not listen to jazz because it's fascist, then like,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, cool. Yeah, I think that's certainly good praxis.
I don't know that it's possible to really get a sense of how successful it is in getting people to actually go out there and read stuff. But for example, recently I put a pretty hilarious folk cult meme up on there, and stuff like that. I'll drop a link in the comments. I mean, people can read it. Yeah, I almost always do that, at least. Maybe one person at least will, and
yeah,
their interest will be piqued, and they'll.
Yeah. Well, so actually, like,
with this hilarious image that with no context or.
Yeah. So actually, more into the like, because we've been talking about like the positive like side of things, but actually, like, I mean, for example, we aren't doing like video because like we usually don't do it anyway, but like you guys told me like, okay, if we're gonna do video, then like we'll probably have to like wear masks, or because like you've gotten like actual threats from, I think you remember some like Turkish weird like right-wing group, or like how does that happen? Like yeah, basically like tell us about the negative attention that like.
Yeah, we have a lot of people who don't like us. Recently, it hasn't been so bad. A couple of years ago, I got doxxed by like a far right group in the UK. They're actually listed as a terrorist organization now, and they published all my info on 4chan and Facebook and everywhere. That happened. We've had, like a recent thing was people who appear to be like Turkish soldiers. I don't know if it's because of our Rojava posting.
Probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten threats in our inbox. We've gotten threats from, various white supremacist groups. That's been a problem since day one, which is why I said, yeah, we can't do video. It used to be worse than it is now, and I don't know if that's because we've, gotten so big, people, don't really bother anymore. But yeah, that's always been
also a lot more vocal about who we were as like, oh, we run this page and we are actively running this page to make it bigger. And some people infiltrate groups and some people see that. I know I've had a few personal threats against me. It kind
Yeah.
of happened.
Yeah, we both have. You know, people find out who we are sometimes. And like to touch on what I said earlier about us not really sharing the event pages and the GoFundMes and things like we used to. Because, for example, people whose GoFundMes we've shared have ended up getting doxxed and harassed.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, that's why we don't do it anymore.
Wow.
Like, do you have any like rough estimate on like what percentage of like the people who follow you are like people who are just like following you like to oppose you, I guess?
I don't have a lot of them though. A lot.
I judge by comment engagement
Yeah.
solely, not on follows. Probably about 10%.
All right, so like 10% of the comments are like negative comments, basically.
Yeah. Well, it used to be worse. I'd probably say 5% now, actually.
All right.
It has gotten better, definitely, over the past, I don't know, year or so. It used to be a worse problem than it is now.
So I have a question. Is it possible that the reason why you guys aren't getting nearly as much hate as you were before is because the let's say like Brexit or Trump era that we're living in is kind of winding down a little bit? People are becoming less politicized since like 2016 era, and so then now that we're headed to the next 4 years of whatever, do you think it's just that people are becoming less active in like politics, so they're less reactive to political stuff? Like I just thought of that, but yeah.
In the Anglosphere, I think we've had enough of like politics just being thrown at us every day. I mean, the entire Trump presidency, I know liberal friends, it's just exhausting. Like every single week they feel like impeachment proceedings need to happen. And now that they're actually like kind of happening, everybody's too worn out for it.
And like it's a drag. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the people who support Trump or support these right-wing policies, they've either kind of left him as the guy who's going to save them all and just kind of support some of the policies he does, or they've just given up forgiving every single thing he does with any amount of logic, and it's just MAGA 2020.
Okay, yeah, like basically like the effort that was put into like all that kind of thing, like people are too worn out for like
and it
well, I
honestly
mean, I was never proud of it. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Honestly sucks in my opinion. I feel like we'd get more engagement from those people. Maybe not necessarily like active engagement to where they're actually caring about what we're saying, but all that stuff boosts our algorithmic stuff to where other people, their political persuasion, more of those people might see it, and they might be interested in a certain principle or something they see in a meme. So I think that's somewhat disappointing, but yeah, that certainly could be a huge part of the decreased hate we get. Also, I mean, at a certain point, it's not like someone's going to harass a meme page off the internet anymore at this point. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody's going to do anything IRL, really.
Yeah. So, so like in summary, I guess like in terms of the online stuff, like the guy who would write like a, 5-paragraph comment, like saying why you're like dumb and whatever, like now just comments like hashtag MAGA 2020.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I even noticed this kind of in other pages. My Jordan Peterson page, for example. People stop like giving. Yeah, I run realistic comments of the defender of Western civilization, Jordan Peterson, or something like that. I don't know. Haven't checked on it in a minute. But people went from like sincere, like, hey, there's a couple things I found wrong with your assessment of Jordan Peterson, and we'd have an engaging dialogue, maybe not always friendly, but that certainly just completely died down. Like it was very concerning to me. I felt like I caught the three people maybe questioning Jordan Peterson for a reason, and then they just kind of, maybe it's algorithmic or something, but I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, like, there's certainly like algorithmic stuff, because like I think the algorithm basically kills your reach after 10,000 followers. But yeah, like, for example, with us, even after like the algorithm sort of like brought us down after we hit 10K, like the sort of like hardcore like followers of the page like would still like see the posts and comment and react and everything. So like if you notice that like people are just like putting less effort into the comments, and like it's probably not just the algorithm. So
yeah, no, I think people are just burnt out.
Yeah.
It's not just on our page. I see it on, like he was saying, you know, it's kind of apparent on other pages too, just like the level of discourse has kind of died down.
Yeah, yeah. Do you like, I mean, obviously this is just more like speculation, but like, do you see it coming back? I mean, obviously, I don't know, like there's elections happening soon, like in the UK and in the US and everything. Like, do you see that like playing a role, or do you think like people are just too worn out by this point to like start caring as much again?
I think there's some momentum left. I mean, just from apolitical and centrist types.
Yeah.
And like, if anything, left wants to be pushed in either election, it needs to be sustained somehow.
Yeah.
But other than that, I would have just, I don't know what's going to happen with political engagement. It seems so out of control because we're not like a mainstream news outlet or outlet, and there's no way to like taper the mainstream ones where a lot of people get their news. And
yeah, but like, I mean, well, I guess like in a way you could say mainstream is a bit of like a misnomer in a way, because like I mean, I'm sure there's like quote unquote mainstream sources that probably have less reach than you guys, for example. Like, I mean, I'm sure CNN has like 2 million likes on Facebook or whatever, but like something like a little smaller, I don't know, like Slate or like The Atlantic or, you know, something like that, probably has about the same reach as you guys. Like, I mean, I don't know, I'm obviously
I wouldn't necessarily like compare us to The Atlantic, merely because trying to generate people who go out there and have thoughts and try to engage with policy positions directly.
Yeah.
Whereas like us, I see us as like the alternatives media alternative. Like we would kind of be a subset of like the whole Jacobin sphere almost, or like different places like wsws.org. Like we aren't generating the thoughts. We're just within that sphere of influence, and everything we do is kind of surface level from our posts directly anyways.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, obviously, I mean, I wouldn't compare you in any realistic way to like either like The Atlantic or CNN, or because, you know, like it's a whole different like ball game. But because like just earlier I was sort of like checking, you know, like how much likes do they have, like the reach, etc. And like for example, like Jacobin has like slightly more likes than you guys do, and The Atlantic has like 2 something million. But like if you look at the amount of reactions that, like, for example, The Atlantic gets, it's pretty much the same that you guys get. Like what I'm saying is like
It's a
you have
little
a
bit
much
lower.
more.
So it's actually it's a little bit less too. Like you guys have way more reacts and engagement on y'all's posts. The Atlantic gets like hardly anything on Facebook at least. I guess.
Actually, I'm quite surprised by that.
No, but yeah, I mean like what I'm saying is I mean it's a weird way to put it, I guess, in some ways, like whether something's mainstream or not, because like yeah, you at least on Facebook, which is like your platform, you probably reach much more people than like some nominally mainstream outlets. But obviously, I mean, they have like their like their print magazines and whatever. So there's obviously that. But yeah, I don't know. I guess like what I'm saying is the mainstream non-mainstream divide, like
It's
in a
getting
way,
blurred.
it's getting blurred, but
getting
it's
blurred.
also, I think, it's much more about like style and form and even like ideology, I guess, than it is about like actual like reach and engagement, etc. You know?
I'll agree with that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the only problem with us is we're not like disseminating like news with the ideas. We have to rely on other people to do that. We have to
Yeah,
rely
of course.
on lifting other people's voices.
Yeah.
And even like when you say they're getting less reacts than us, is that on our meme posts, or is it with our news posts, or?
I mean, I took a quick scroll through a lot of their stuff. Like if you go on the main like the Atlantic page on Facebook, it's like they'll occasionally get like 1,000 reacts on some stuff, but most of it's like 70 or like 40, 29 even. Like they really don't get that much. And I
That's
just went through and I
really
went through
surprising.
y'all's. Yeah, I went through y'all's. You guys get like consistently way more than they do. So, that's only on Facebook though. They are a giant network. They probably have stuff on Twitter and stuff. But even if you look at their Twitter stuff, it's always low. So I don't know. We live in strange times where meme lords get more reach than supposed mainstream media, more like dying legacy media. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think legacy is definitely a better word for it than mainstream.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like the Jeffrey Epstein thing is obviously like, like a great example of how like the mainstream is like no longer mainstream. Like, this isn't like my idea. I remember I read it or like someone said it to me, but like I think it's a great point. Like, pretty much no one believes that like Jeffrey Epstein killed himself.
I know that's actually crazy because like I'm seeing people from all over the political spectrum finally agree on something.
One thing, yeah.
Yeah.
That was very confusing to me for a minute. And then I remembered everybody has a little bit of that class consciousness in them that just kind of needs to be raised out. Because everybody gets it. He's rich, has powerful connections, he can get away with it, and then all of a sudden, oh, he has all these powerful connections. Obviously, the powerful connections don't want him to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, I do kind of worry because I also saw like conspiracy theorists trying to latch onto it, like kind of distracting it from its class and politically elite nature.
Yeah.
But I really think that this is like a really good thing that everybody should latch onto because it proves a point, and it's not really conspiracy theory. It's following the incentives of the system to kind of show exactly what can occur when people have this unlimited power.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, speaking of conspiracy theories and Jeffrey Epstein, like, yeah, for example, I think that's one problem that always comes up in terms of like class. You probably saw that meme that was just like a political compass about like Jeffrey Epstein, which like the top left and the bottom left were both like Jeffrey Epstein was killed by powerful millionaires. Then the centrist like Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, and then like the bottom right was like, well, actually the correct term is like hephibophilia, you know. But then the top left, the top right, sorry, was like Jeffrey Epstein was killed by powerful Jews, or you know, something like that. So it wasn't like there is some like element of like class, but then obviously, of course, you have to like get in the like infamous like JQ in there.
Of course, but I mean, if I'm looking at like the average Republicans that I interact with daily or every other day, and then the centrists even, those people don't believe he killed himself either, and they can see clearly why that's probably not the case. And they can see
so wait, like
why
just
he was allowed to get away with all the stuff he did, and probably why he was able to be killed, and none of the state apparatuses seem to be able to figure out why. Not figure out why he's dead, but come up with a reason that's just so unbelievably stupid.
Yeah, and so like just like to be clear, like when you say like Republicans, I'm guessing you mean like your run-of-the-mill mainstream kind of college Republicans, like George
the
Bush.
guy who tepidly supports Trump, or the older mother who's mildly racist that I see it like every other day at
everywhere.
work. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm blessed.
Sorry. Yeah.
Are you good?
Wait, what was I saying?
Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh no, because like we said earlier like about like the more theory stuff. Like, just like tell us a little about like you know, we mentioned Butchkin earlier, and obviously like there's a Stirner 4B in the conversation. So like basically just like a little like why not just like standard like Marxist leftist, you know?
Because I'm a super special snowflake.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean,
like,
And I'm just edgy.
Empathize heavily.
You gotta be extra about everything.
Wait, sorry, say that again.
I said we gotta be extra about everything.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, we certainly follow that advice.
Max Stirner was really my first introduction to any theory. When I was talking earlier about my early days in activism and the environmental stuff I got into, some people I worked with suggested I read the book. So that was like my first introduction to anything ever.
Yeah.
And from there, I met other anarchists and, you know, started reading, you know, Peter Kropotkin and other anarchist theory. I was, you know, fully a post-left anarchist when I first made Revolutionary Means Extreme.
Yeah.
I met T. We kind of hung out in the same circles, you know, with communists, and I started gravitating more towards, you know, collectivization rather than individualization. But I've always really liked Stirner. I've always really liked his ideas. And then I came across a niche kind of theory a few years ago of egoist communism. There was a situationist collective who kind of tried to synthesize, you know, the principles of both egoism and communism. And I really like that. So that's kind of where I lay these days. I consider myself a communist. I don't consider myself an egoist really, or an anarchist anymore.
Yeah.
Politically communist, philosophically egoist, I say sometimes.
Okay. Yeah.
But, yeah, I never felt the need to just stick one hard, say Marxist or egoist and, slap that on as a label. I just kind of take ideas from different places and.
Yeah. But I had one thing about like the theory. Shit, I forgot what I was gonna say.
You want me to talk a little bit about like Sanders, because I have a few ideas on the whole like DSA labor movements. Because
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about this DSA labor movement. I'm with it.
In terms of like ideology and just moving the Overton?
Yeah,
Is that
Overton.
Yep.
Yeah.
Overton window, moving it left, it's certainly great. And like I would never judge somebody for like joining the Labor Party or DSA merely kind of like as a crudgel. I also sympathize with like kind of the reformist ideas of like, oh, free healthcare, etc. I think there's some merit in those ideas, especially if you're a revolutionary, if you want your comrades to have any sort of material wealth. Definitely helps out to be able to afford a gun during the revolution. But like in terms of like trying to commit to an actual radical ideology and actually making changes within your community, you really do have to look more further left. And I found kind of an ideology that when I apply it, it helps my community, it helps my immediate friends, and it also seems like I could scale it up. Like we could have larger political actions out of this.
Yeah.
And I don't see why people enjoy like organizing within communities, community councils, or even unions.
Oh, and wait, I remembered what I was gonna ask about. Because for example, like Nikki mentioned earlier, like you like Butchkin, right?
Yeah.
Who's like a very sort of like humanist philosopher, like
yes,
like
entirely.
Yeah, like he centers like all his ethics around like basically humans.
Well, yeah.
So like, what's like, how do you feel about, and like how do you deal with like sort of like the more like radically like kind of anti-civilization, like primitivist Unabomber type like left?
Especially online, it is difficult for me to engage necessarily.
Yeah.
I feel like we came at the points we came to like environmental preservation and stuff at such radically different philosophical bases and moral systems that kind of hard to like even have a conversation without getting at those really base beliefs. And sometimes people don't even know what those base beliefs are. I know definitely like in real life where people haven't read Uncle Ted, kind of these anti-humanist, anti-civilization not sentiments, but sympathies. Generally, I can persuade them somewhat that like this is kind of harmful in terms of political and philosophical engagement with anybody you're trying to convince. Like no one who's outside of a political bubble wants to hear that a butterfly has as much value as a human, because not only do they not understand it, it's not necessarily something I feel you can politically build a movement on that'll be both popular and really be arguable for. So like what Bookchin does is he has first nature, which encompasses all of nature, and then second nature, which takes into account our institutions and different organizations that we as people have. And he makes the point that, hey, if we want to save all of nature, then we're going to have to change this second nature. And this second nature needs to be kind of fostered and made really good, because it's not going away. It's not going to be completely destroyed. We have to change it.
Yeah, yeah. Alright, so like, well, we're at 15 minutes now. So I guess we should probably wrap up. So I don't know if like anyone has anything else, you know, that they'd like to say or.
Not. Thank you so much for laying me on. I appreciate
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. You know we love you guys, and yeah, we're definitely honored that you asked us to do this.
All right, so like really happy to have you here. Like, been a fan of the page like as well for like a long time now. And you know, it's kind of funny because like with both of you guys, like we kind of like had our like separate like fangirling each other moment. I already knew that like T was one of the admins of like Rev memes because like Nikki told me. But then like the first time I spoke to T, I remember you told me like, oh, I also run like realistic comics with Jordan Peterson, whatever, Western Civilization. I was like, oh my god, like that's amazing. I love that page. But yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm very happy to hear somebody entertained by our comment. I mean, that's also something we always try to do.
Yeah.
I mean, these are sometimes fucked up times, personally and politically, and some laughs are always genuinely needed.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well,
yeah. Do you guys have any plugs? Do you guys have any plugs or anything? Anywhere like they can follow you on social media? Is it just Facebook? Just revolutionary memes? All right, cool.
Unless you want to plug
Yeah,
anything
just
else.
revolutionary memes on Facebook. We are currently on an algorithm block. It'll be listed the 12th. I don't know if this will even air by then, but we should be back. I don't know for how long, but we'll be back the 12th.
All right, cool.
All right.
Thanks for coming on, guys.